Sewing a 5/8 inch seam. For most of the projects that you'll be working on, the actual seam will be 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the material. So it'll run right along. It won't be right on the very edge. It's about 5/8 of an inch into the material. So I'm going to show you how to sew a seam that is 5/8 of an inch. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you have your machine on. So your light goes on. We've already threaded the machine, so our top thread and our bobbin are already in, and they're here at the back. And you are going to lay your fabric under the presser foot. The edge of the material is going to go right on the guide at 5/8 of an inch. And the guide plate actually has measurements on it. We have marked with a black marker the 5/8 inch. This is where the edge of your fabric will go. So I will put my fabric into the machine under the presser foot. I'll close the presser foot, and then right here you can see is that 5/8 inch mark. And that's where my fabric is going to stay the entire time. So my goal is to guide this fabric so that this edge stays right at that 5/8 inch point. Like any project that you do, you want to make sure that you backstitch to begin so that you have that locked in. So I'm going to take a couple of stitches forward, get my bobbin thread out of the way, and then I will hit my back button and take some stitches backwards to the edge of the fabric. And then I'm going to fix that thread. Now I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And as you can see, it's grabbing my material and pulling my material forward. As I get close to a pin, I can stop, make sure that my needle is down so the fabric doesn't move, pull the pin out, and then just continue to sew a straight seam. And that you will sew all the way across, stopping, taking the needle at the pin out, and then continuing to sew. I believe one of the other options that you have when you get to a pin, if your needle's up, is that I believe one of these will make the top button will make your needle automatically go down, so you don't have to hand crank your needle. Then you can pull your pin out and you can continue to sew. So needle down, pin out, and keep sewing. Notice that the edge of my fabric is still on that 5/8 line. That's my goal, is to make sure it stays on that line. I'm going to sew to the end of my fabric, or as close as I can get, and then I'll stop, go ahead and hit my reverse button, and my seam should back up 3 or 4 stitches, stop again, and then finish the seam going straight off the edge of the fabric. Once I'm past the presser foot, I can lift the presser foot, make sure that my needle's up, pull out my threads, and there's a little cutter right here on the edge. I can just cut off the edge, and there is my 5/8 inch seam. This is also, you're going to go ahead and make this seam on this edge, and this edge. So make sure that you pin your fabric like we showed you, and then you will just start on the edge, the short edge of the material, presser foot down, forward a few stitches, backward to back stitch and lock in your stitches, and then forward to finish off this seam, Needle down, pin out. Make sure that you are trying to stay on that black line, that's the 5/8 inch line, to the end of the fabric. Then you're going to back stitch a few steps and to the edge to finish. Presser foot up, needle up, pull it out, cut it off. And I have 2 sides, so I'm going to continue with a 5/8 inch seam down the long edge and one more down the second short edge.